Welcome to Partnerships for Profit, the podcast where we bring you inside the world of joint ventures, strategic partnerships, and powerful collaborations. Each episode, you'll dive into conversations with top entrepreneurs, visionaries, and business leaders, unlocking the secrets to building profitable relationships that drive growth and success. Whether you're looking to expand your network, find new referral partners, or scale your business, you're in the right place. Let's get started.
Welcome to Partnerships for Profit, presented by LeDuc Entertainment. Today, we are joined by Ned Fasullo, who is a sales and marketing expert and acclaimed vocalist, and the founder of Ned Fasullo and the Fabulous Big Band. Ned, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Ned, can you start off by telling us a little bit about yourself and a little bit about your background and the Fabulous Big Band?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've kind of like I said pre-show, self-made, never really went to college, fell into sales very early on. And most of my career has been sales and marketing for different types of companies, mostly the technology world, but also straight sales and marketing consulting as well. The music thing came about really out of the blue. I can't really explain how it happened. I just decided one day I was sitting in front of a computer, probably in 1998, burning MP3s illegally to CDs for my car, and, was able to sit there and think about what I wanted to do. And I was singing one of the songs, I guess, and my wife at the time, she said, you're not half bad at that. And I was like, really? And then about a month and a half later, I was on stage with a jazz trio in Baton Rouge singing for the first time ever. Wow. No formal lessons, no thoughts about it, no nothing. Just straight up, took a shot and decided, whatever, let's give it a chance.
How did you overcome that sort of, that's a big leap, right? How did you, were there nerves there? How did you overcome that?
Yeah, the nerves lasted about the first year. And, I'd always been okay with public speaking and stuff for work and being on TV shows. I had my own television show in the mid 90s.
Really?
Cable TV. Yeah. For about a year and a half, and a radio show before that. So I think some of it I was okay with presenting myself. Now, singing is a little different, but, it was the first year was a little nerve-wracking depending on the gig and what we did. And when we started, we came out really strong. There haven't been very many big band orchestras in Louisiana, that actively perform.
Right.
Over the last 30 years that we've been doing this, I would say less than 3 are operating at any one time that do what we do.
Right.
Right now we're down to 1 and it's just us.
Wow.
There was a very popular one that was around for many, many years, the Buddy Boudreaux Orchestra, that was nationally known and did some things. They were kind of retiring out as I was starting. I actually was lucky enough to play with them a few times. But, it's just weird. I just kind of like everything else in my life professionally. I said, I'm going to try this and do it and make the best at it. There was a moment there where I had a decision to make. Could I pursue the singing professionally? Reality set in and, family sets in. And, being in Louisiana meant leaving Louisiana to try to make something of it. And I made my mind up pretty quick. I was going to turn it into one of the best paid hobbies that a person like me could ever have. So I pursued that, and we've played all over the country. We've played at in New York. We've opened at the used to be a club there called Feinstein's in 2010. We opened at Feinstein's. Played in jazz bars in LA. We did a lot of corporate work for many years. We got flown all over the country to do things. In the early 2000s, I was lucky enough to be a guest vocalist for the Nelson Riddle Orchestra. They toured all over the Southeast. Wow. So I would leave work on a Friday and drive or fly to some other city and sing all weekend and come home Sunday night.
That's incredible. And you're very unique in that you have this corporate world side and you have this music industry side. Do you find that any of the lessons that you've learned or any of the things that you've learned from the corporate world, does that influence your approach to the music industry?
100%.
And
Yeah.
does your experience in the music industry affect your approach to the corporate side?
I would say that, it's a left brain, right brain thing, right? I mean, and if you look in the tech industry in particular, there are many, many technology professionals, IT engineers, people like that do something highly complex that in fact are musicians on the side. It's a very weird thing, but in the tech industry, it's kind of prevalent. I would say that absolutely my professional life made the band and the music side of it look more professional. I knew how to put a website up. I knew how to market myself. I knew how to put contracts together and agreements for the band. So when I approached opportunities for events or festivals or private parties, whatever it was, I think we presented ourselves a lot differently than, people who are musicians for a trade and usually aren't set up properly to do the business side of things. So I think that definitely helped. I think on the other side, creativity is a big part of my life, sales and marketing, obviously, and then music and things like that. I do bring a lot of that onto the corporate side, so when any of the companies that I'm with are participating in trade shows or events or things like that, I always have music in the booth. So I think it's a definite back and forth for sure.
And you are, and this, I'm so interested in this. You are a self-taught vocalist. What challenges did you face in figuring that out?
Well, I think calling me self-taught is a misnomer. I didn't know what to teach myself to begin with. I just was somehow blessed with a gift that I didn't know I had until I was almost 27 years old. And figured out the best way to use it. Luckily for me, my voice lended itself much better to a genre that was, something of a old school or, standards, things like that. I did, about the second year I was doing it, I did go take some vocal lessons from a guy here in Baton Rouge who was known all over the world for working with vocalists. And he gave me great advice. He gave me about 6 lessons before he told me I didn't need to come back. And it wasn't that I didn't have just raw amount of talent, but he told me what I was given at birth was a perfect pitch ear, which prevented me from learning an instrument. I tried piano and some other things growing up, and I would not be able to learn. I don't know how to read music. So I would pick it up by ear, and the piano teacher would think I was looking at the page, but so it just didn't lend itself well. But in the vocal world, it actually was a huge advantage for me. I'm blessed with a pretty decent memory for old songs. I've got a chart library of about 1,200 tunes, and I've probably got the lyrics for more than half of those in my head. Like I've never used a lyric sheet. I've never had to rely on things like that. It's just, I honestly, it's luck. It's a lot of luck. I don't think it's training or skill or that I, went through some regimen to get there. I tell people all the time, I'm just really lucky, and I play with some of the top musicians that never miss a note. So it makes me just look way better than I really am.
Do you think that there was anything that drew you to American standards and sort of the crooning style?
Old soul. I've been called that since I was 18 years old. Grew up with that kind of music in our house, along with country music and some other stuff, but generally the old classic stuff was always around. Obviously, Italian family. My dad was real into the country music and stuff like that. My mom's side of the family the other way. My family history here in Baton Rouge goes back pretty far in terms of bars and entertainment establishments and things like that. And I think I was just, it's something I've always enjoyed listening to, and just, I guess, just somehow universally drawn to it. I like all kinds of music. I listen to all kinds of music. My 2 favorite artists of all time, or several artists of all time, Dean Martin, Bobby Darin, Frank Sinatra, and Prince. So, I mean, there's a pretty wide berth there. But
one of those things is not like the other.
One of those things is not like the other. But I will tell you what I think is similar behind both of those is the arranging and composing of the music. Prince was known as one of the greatest natural musicians of all time. He played all the instruments, all of the strings, all of the horns, and something about those arrangements of those songs, even though they're funk or R&B, they do lend themselves to the same musical structure of a lot of big band music. And he drew influence from Duke Ellington and people like that when he was a younger musician. And there is a lot of similarity musically to some of it. Obviously, some of it's not anything near each other, but yeah, I mean, and like I said, I do listen to all types of music. I'm my family now, my current wife and I, we have 5 children between us. One of those children is a singer in the band now. She's 25.
Wow.
Much better than I am. A lot of natural talent, a lot of skill. But with that many kids of different ages, music is a part of our life, all genres and everything. And I always get, if we're going to put music on in the house for dinner, if we're, in the car, don't put old people music on. That's what I get. So,
I'm somebody that gets accused of being an old soul myself. Like we were talking about before the show, I've got a Rat Pack CD on in the car and everything,
Oh, yeah.
So I'd love to speak a little bit about your time touring and working with the Salute to Sinatra.
Sure.
I'm curious, when you were doing that, now were you just singing, or were you also adopting, were you
No, I don't.
Frankie?
I don't do the impersonation act. I've never done that. I've never gone down that path. I've been offered that early on. I was offered opportunities for that, and I kind of didn't want to do that. I was told the best singing advice I ever got was to find my own voice. I do draw inspiration from obviously the way that those performances went and things like that, as well as the band. It's the music that we play. I didn't go down that path, so it was truly like a guest vocalist with the Riddle Orchestra. At the time, it was Nelson Riddle obviously was not alive. It was his son,
Right.
Christopher Riddle, who recently passed away as well. But we would, I would provide my own charts, basically. All of the stuff that I do is record, all of our charts in this world are pretty much record copies, right? So if you've heard it on the album, this is what it sounds like. I could show up with my chart books on a Friday evening at a rehearsal, and these guys didn't even need to practice it. The caliber of the musicians was they could open a piece of music in front of them and literally just read it down and play it. And, there'd be mistakes here and there that only we could hear, but it's like clockwork. And it's the same thing with the musicians that I have in my band here. These are sight reading trained musicians. They either work in education or music education or the symphony. And, like people are shocked when I tell them, but I mean, I've probably, if I've sung 100%, 1% of that's been rehearsals over the past 30 years.
Wow. And I'm curious. So you are someone you've worked with sort of kind of intimate jazz ensembles, but you've also worked with huge big bands.
Yeah. So I mean, our group is a big band. It's a 16-piece orchestra.
Oh, wow.
We've what we do for other types of events when we're not on a big stage at a theater or something is we bring that down from 16 to 12, then 12 to 8, and then 8 to a trio. So we can accommodate different types of things. We've done bigger than that. We've played with the Baton Rouge Symphony before, where we've had the strings as well as the horns. So we've had a 25, 26-piece group on the stage, playing, exactly how it was written with strings and all. Those and the ones with the larger ensembles those are the most fun. But the second most fun to me is the 8-piece and the trios, simply because the 8-piece band is it's more like a little bar band almost, but we can play all of the same charts, all the same music. We really don't lose anything, thematically or musically. And then in the trio setting, it's just me, piano, bass, and drums, and it's very laid back. And the band can kind of play around a little bit with songs, and I can come in and out wherever I want. And it's more loungy, I guess, is what you would call it. And it's a lot of fun to do that as well.
Does your approach to your performance change if you're working with a big band versus a trio versus an 8-piece? I mean, does it affect your approach to your performance?
I would say no. I mean, I'm the same person standing up there no matter what. I look to the piano player to tell me, what we're doing next, and have him start the tune, or the drummer. Everything else just kind of falls into place. I mean, 30 years of doing this almost. I can do this in my sleep, so I can walk out there and just do it. I don't have a problem with it. I can do that. I mean, I've gone into restaurants. I've been overseas, and there've been piano players at a place, and I can walk up and give them a tune, and we can just perform it.
Wow.
So, I don't ever have a problem with that. Same thing with public speaking in the corporate world. I could go do a public speaking gig 10 minutes after this interview is over, and they could just give me a topic and I can talk about it.
Wow.
So I figure I'm either really good at what I do, or I'm really good at making shit up. So I can't decide which one it is. Maybe it's a little of both.
I was going to say, it's got to be a little of both, right?
It has to be a little of both.
There's a place for bullshit, there's a place for
sure.
it.
Especially on stage. But no, we just, we show up and we do our thing, and, we show up in tuxedo or suits. We look professional. We're clean. We're easy. We don't have a lot of equipment, so we've been really, really lucky, being so close to New Orleans, which is where jazz is,
Right.
The fact that we've been able to prosper so much in Louisiana is it's a testament to the musicians. And I say this when I'm on stage all the time. I'm blessed to have great musicians behind me, because honestly, they make anybody sound really, really good.
Now, you mentioned that your daughter is a singer in the band as well.
Mm-hmm.
Do you find that your approach changes? I mean, do you work with other musicians? I know, excuse me, musician's not the right term, but do you work with other singers? I mean, is there sort of a rat pack element to it?
There has
back and forth.
There has been over the years. There's been we've had different female vocalists that work with us. We've had different male vocalists that have worked with us in different things. We've had some of those experiences at some big charity galas and big New Year's Eve concerts and things like that. And we want to do them as much as possible. I'd say, since COVID, it really slowed down for live music. It just started coming back about probably a year and a half, 2 years ago, to where it was kind of normal. And what we do these days is we really don't do weddings. We're not that band anymore. We're more, right. If we're going to do it, we're going to do it on a big stage. We're going to support a charity. We're going to, part of the proceeds of the show will go to the charity and things like that. And we do a production. So we have other singers that we want to invite in to do that here and there. My daughter has just been doing more of it the last year or so, mainly because the fans have asked for it, just point blank. But we've got some other great stuff. We have a huge show planned for it's either late June or early July this year at the LSU Theater, which will include a couple of female vocalists with myself. And it'll be kind of a cross between a Las Vegas style show on the stage with like the sets of like the old Dean Martin TV show. So there's some cool sets and things like that. And we do another one of those in December, and it's again for charity, but it's all holiday themed, Christmas music and things like that. But I've reconnected the last year or so with some of our older singing partners that have been up there with me, and these are phenomenal people. I mean, their singing is great. We've had some of the best female vocalists the last 20 years work with us than probably anybody doing what we do. A couple of male vocalists have come through, and it's not that they don't want to do it anymore, that we don't want them, but life just takes other paths for people, right? And so it's just like that. But we're gonna do a lot more of that in the future, where it's not just me, it's more of a collaboration, because we can play off of one another on stage and do all that kind of stuff.
Do you find that, I mean, obviously, we talked a little bit about, the people that you've been compared to, Frank Sinatra, Bobby Darin, Dean Martin. I mean, even more contemporary, Harry Connick Jr., Michael Bublé, these kind of crooner types. Do you find that there's an artist that you're particularly like suited for? I mean, is your Frank Sinatra better than your Bobby Darin, or is your Bobby Darin better than your Dean Martin? Is there somebody that you really think this is the guy that I can lock into?
I would say The combination of all three of those guys, and it's be
Mm.
more of the, I would like to think that we have the entertainment value of Dean Martin, the, I guess, singing and musicality of Frank Sinatra, and then the energy of what Bobby Darin shows were.
Wow.
If we can hit those things in an event on stage, we've knocked their socks off.
Absolutely. Do you know, I'm curious, that brings up a fun question. Is there a moment on stage where we got this? Like, is there a moment where we're about to crush this? And
Oh,
what does
yeah.
that feel like?
Right when the curtain opens, that's when the moment hits. And I say
I
that
love
because
that answer.
we are very good at what we do. As a group, we are pretty untouchable in what we do. I would
Wow.
put it, and I, there's a lot of people doing what we do out there around the country, right? I'm in a bunch of Facebook groups with other singers and stuff, and I think the issue that I have with it is that I think it's all great. Everybody needs to be playing this music. Everybody needs to be listening to it, but there's too many people trying to impersonate dead people instead of just being a front man and singing and doing it and just emulating certain things. And so, like, what I just said earlier about those three particular entertainers, I think you have to draw parts and pieces that work for what you're doing and
Right.
kind of meld it all together. And I look, a lot of that's in the corporate world too. It's about, consulting for anything is about finding the best parts and pieces and putting it together so that you can help a client achieve something. And I think it's more than that on the musical side. A lot of people just walk out there and count off the band and start singing, and there's no production value, and there's no banter, and there's no set lighting and things like that. And, I got to say, if you're charging 35 to 50 bucks a ticket in, some of these markets at these theaters, you better put on a show.
And I'd love to bring it. I think that's a great and I'd love to bring it back a little bit to the business side. Can you speak a little bit about the role of showmanship in the business world?
I would say that, my world for 30 years, I say it's been sales and marketing. It's that background, but it is consulting. I have to go in and essentially put on a show for a customer. I have to convince them that the services that myself or a company that I'm with are going to provide are better than anyone. They're going to get the best value for it. They're going to want to continue to do it. They're going to want to follow it. It's the same thing, I think, on the music side. It's the same methodologies almost. It's weird, but they do kind of line up. And for somebody with, I guess, my personality, my salesmanship, my marketing skills or whatever, they do lend themselves on both sides. And it's, being able to read the room. If you're on stage and you play, there's times when we play a song that we're all like, man, that was awesome. And you look in the crowd and you're like, but it didn't resonate.
Didn't land.
And it's the same thing in business. You can do a great presentation and wrap them up, and then on the last slide say one thing that kicks the whole thing back to the curb. So
Wow.
There's a lot of back and forth. I think there's a lot of synergy, and maybe that's why we've been so successful. Is just a lot of it, I've been in the right place at the right time. I chose musically to do something no one else was touching. And I didn't just half-ass it. We went after it. We got the best musicians. We did the biggest things. I got the biggest press. And on the work side, I'm doing the same thing now with two companies that I'm in charge of. And if we're going to do it, we're going to be the best. Where it's going to be okay to tell some clients that they're not a good fit for us based on what we do and how we do it. Just like on the gig side, I can tell somebody, look, we don't play weddings anymore, but here are some great referrals to some of that stuff. And own your space. Go in. If you're going to be an expert, own your space. And if you mess up, fess up and make it right with the client or the customer on whichever side it is.
And that's really interesting too, because it brings up this other kind of thought about 16-piece orchestra. There is intense collaboration there.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody's got to be literally on the same page. Same thing with business.
Yeah.
What is your approach to collaboration? How do you work that out?
So, the band, when we're on stage, one of the musicians, and it can be different ones for different, occasions, generally runs the band. So I would think
Right.
of that person more as the project manager, and he's telling the people on stage, he's conducting, directing, and he's keeping them on task and in line. The same thing happens at the office every day. We have an internal client relations project manager that keeps technicians and engineers or creative people, whatever it is, whatever the thing we're doing, keeps them in line, keeps everybody on task, communicates effectively with the customers. It's very much, music is a business as much as anything else. And I think that a lot of musicians do not understand that. And therefore they never elevate themselves out of a bar band or a wedding band type scenario. And it's okay if that's what they want to be. But,
Right.
I think when you approach it differently, and again, I think because my only sphere of reference when we started the band was business oriented.
Right.
I think that, we got out ahead of a lot of people, and to this day, we still do it a lot differently, but it's very much the same. You're correct. At work or on stage, you got to have all the parts and pieces clicking, and when something's off, it immediately. And so does the client.
Right. Now, and you sing a lot of American standards. This is going to be a two-part question. It might be a loaded question, so bear with me. But you sing a lot of American standards, and I'm wondering, A, what your thoughts are on what makes something a classic? What makes it a standard? And B, what's your favorite? What's your favorite to sing?
I don't have a favorite. The favorites list is now up to about 20.
That's fair.
I don't have a single favorite. I've got a few favorites from different singers that I like, men and women singers. What makes it a classic or a standard? I mean, I think the definition of the Great American Songbook is the stuff that was really, all of the great composers, arrangers, and writers,
Right.
The Cole Porters, the Duke Ellingtons, the Sammy Kahns, all those people created this body of work, So in the old days, they would write a song and and have a musical path for that song, and then these artists would each record this song in their own style, in their own way. Imagine if that happened in this day and age. Like,
Right.
those days are gone. Like,
Right.
with the I'd say, with the advent of the 70s, when the Rat Pack era was really starting to phase into, these are standards and this is old American music. You imagine today if somebody came up with the song for like Crazy in Love and 14 artists recorded it in their own way. I mean, like, that's not a thing, right? It just doesn't, it doesn't work like that.
Shine on Harvest Moon by who?
By anybody. And if you go look, when we're looking for new charts for singers in our group or for me, and, it's always somebody will come and ask, hey, do you sing X? And I'll always say, yes, we do X, but it's in the arrangement and style of this person.
Right.
And, that was the world back then. I think that era stopped at probably 68 through 70, and it became popular music. And that's when that whole block of stuff going back all the way to the 1900s became the classic American songbook and standards and all that stuff. So it's interesting. I mean, I get asked all the time too about the favorite song. I mean, like, what's your favorite song?
Right.
There's too many. I mean, there's no, I literally cannot pinpoint a single tune. I could look at, so-and-so's version of X. I love it. It's a great song. It's in the top 3 by him or her, things like that. But that list is up to 20 or 25.
Right.
And most of those we actually perform all the time. So, I tell people, if you hear what I'm singing tonight, right now, this is my favorite. So, that's what we do.
This might be peeling the cover back a little bit too much, but is there one you dread performing?
There's plenty. There's plenty of
Really?
dread. There's some I like to do in the band dreads, and there's some the band wants to do in my dread. I would say I have never been real big on the ballads. We
Really?
always have a few ballads in the show just to slow things down a little bit. I am more like, if I paid tickets to come see this dude and he's on stage with all these, like, I want this show to move. I don't
Right.
want it to be a bunch of boohoo, lovey music. So I would say that I usually, it's 90% gonna move you, or and 10% gonna make you, want to
Right.
dance or rub bellies with somebody. It's not. I'm just never been. I don't know. It's just my personality. I think I'm just always, wanting to move and make it swing and all that stuff. And some of the stuff, it's like, okay, it's a great song. Love it. I will say my all-time favorite ballad is actually an instrumental, Moonlight Serenade.
Oh, yeah.
And that'd be definitely a classic.
And can you describe for our listeners, who may not know, can you describe what exactly the Great American Songbook is?
Well, it's just the collection of music between technically the 1900s, early 1900s through about the mid 60s. I mean, there was some stuff that could be considered that after that point, but that's your collection of stuff. And it is mostly going to be your swing, your big band, your jazz, your vocal performers of the time, everybody from Jerry Vale to Sinatra to Dean Martin. It's a huge number of singers, your Ella Fitzgeralds, your Peggy Lees, your Sarah Vaughns. It's all of that kind of stuff. And that's really what comprises it. I mean, the easiest way to understand that is to, go to on XM or satellite radio. It used to be the Standards channel. Now it's called XM Sinatra or whatever it's called. That's what you're talking about. That's what that era is all about.
And can you share with us a little bit about, of your years doing this, what has it taught you about music heritage?
It's important to appreciate that type of music. And I think that every person at some level in their life, generally towards their early to mid 30s, begins to appreciate that type of music, no matter what generation they were born in. I think that as you mature, I think it is a mature style of entertainment and music. And so it's much more appreciated by, 35 and older, and even,
Right.
Into your 70s and 80s, obviously, because they grew up with it. It's not, it was called pop standards when it was during its time, so it was the pop music of that day. Obviously today we have more trash than entertainment in the music industry. Everything's, done by computers. It's rare that you see real bands up on stage, and the ones when you do go to these concerts, it's a lot of, we go to the Woodlands Pavilion all the time to see bands like, Hall & Oates and Foreigner. They're still playing instruments. They're still actually,
Right.
Doing it the right way. And nothing to take away from other entertainers or creators, but they are not musicians.
Right.
They are more creators of entertainment content, in my opinion. And there's a place for it. It just, it's not something that I'm going to live or die with. It's just, a lot has changed in the music industry, and streaming is a big part of that.
Absolutely. Well, Ned, this has been an amazing, awesome conversation. If anybody listening would like to check you out, either see the band and see some of your music, or could use your help on the business side, where can the people find you?
So from the music side, we have one of the easiest website addresses in the world, bigband-entertainment.com. So you can Google my name or that, and anything you Google on me, the first 50 pages probably have to do with the band. From a business standpoint, the consulting firm is velocitypartnersgroup.com. And then a tech company that I'm a part owner of is Apex Technologies in Baton Rouge. So lots going on all the time.
It sounds like you wear a lot of hats.
A lot.
Well, Ned, thank you so much for coming on the show. This has been awesome.
Appreciate it. I love it. I'd love to come back at some other point.
I would love to have you back on. And thank you, everyone, for listening. This has been Partnerships for Profit, presented by LeDuc Entertainment. Ned, thank you so much again.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of Partnerships for Profit. We hope you've gained valuable insights on how to form profitable partnerships and take your business to the next level. Be sure to subscribe and leave us a review wherever you listen to podcasts so you never miss an episode. Got a partnership story to share or someone you'd like to see featured on the show? Reach out to us. Until next time, keep building those partnerships for profit.